So you grew up in Evanston?
I was born in Chicago, but I grew up in Evanston. High school at ETHS, junior high at King Lab. Both were like 5 minutes away from my house, so it was nice.
Awesome. Anything that stands out memory-wise?
I know that I took some great theater classes at Piven Theater in Evanston, and that was kind of the first chance that I really had to get out of my skin a little bit, feel comfortable in the skin I'm in, and feel more confident not only about acting, but just confident in myself, Everyone's got so many serious meaning of life questions when you're in high school, and being in a neat theater program like that over at Piven, being around Vernon Joyce and people like that, it really kind of just helped me feel a lot more comfortable with me.
How old were you when you started taking classes there?
I was in 7th grade. I actually took classes at Piven from like 7th grade through, I was in the Young People's Company there. A lot of people like Joan Kuzak and John Kuzak and Jeremy Piven and all these guys kind of came out from there. And it was very informative for me as an actor.
Is there any particular lesson or words of wisdom that you got from Vernon Joyce that you recall?
Just the idea that the truth is the best,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about improv and that sort of a thing. And I remember as a young student in the classes, I was always trying to be the funny guy. And I just thought my He-Man imitation was just awesome. But I realized that just being truthful in the improv and being truthful in a scene, being truthful with your scene partner is the most effective way to go when you kind of take away all the artifice and all the stuff that you kind of add on. You're just so much more effective.
Your first professional job was in a touring kids improv company?
Yeah, I was at Southside Touring Theater, which is a neat theater company here in Chicago that did a lot of traveling out on the East Coast, and, that was a lot of improv there. I probably have more respect for dancers and improvers than any other art form.
Yeah.
And particularly dancers now that I've done a little bit of it in this musical, and Advil has become my best friend as of late. But I have so much respect for it. I do well with scripts. I do well with planned things. And then I go off the path at that point. But, I like to start with something that I know. Improvers just going without a net. I have so much respect for, particularly long-form improv. I'm a big fan of it, but I cower in a corner when I contemplate actually doing something like that.
Have you worked at all with the Writers Theater on the North Shore?
Yeah, sure. I did 2 shows with them. Both were directed by Michael Halberstam. I did The Duchess of Malfi. And then in 2007, I did Othello. We had a lot of fun. Every time you play that role, I think that was my 3rd time, you get to the end of a run and you're like, oh man, now I'm making these discoveries. Or, oh my gosh, got a chance to do it again, I do this. And it's rare to get to reprise the same role unless you're black and you do classical theater, in which case chances are you're going to be doing Othello a couple of times, at least. So I've luckily had the opportunity to hit it again and again, and that was a really neat experience. Those were probably some of the best rehearsals that I've been a part of.
It is live theater, and things often go wrong.
Indeed they do.
Indeed they do. Do you have an incident, a funny circumstance?
They're never funny. They're never funny when you're in them. They're horrible. The one that has always stood out for me is a production of Take Me Out, which was a co-production with Steppenwolf and About Face Together. I'm doing a scene where they play a ball player, and I'm in a bar with another superstar ball player, and we're having a bit of a heated discussion, and I went up. I'm entering into a nice mid-sized monologue, and I couldn't remember the jump-off point. For the life of me, I just couldn't remember it. And I know that some actors, if they do go up, there'll be a bit of silence as they try to find the thread. And I'm not that guy, which is probably not a good thing. I actually continue to talk and hope that the thread finds itself. And sometimes that works. And in this case, it did not work. About 40 seconds to a minute later, which is, it's an eternity on stage of just kind of freestyling. I thought that I would pass it off to my scene partner, thinking that he would just pick up the ball and run with it to the end of the scene and save me from further disgrace. And instead, because there was a plot point that I needed to get in during that monologue, I couldn't find that plot point. And my scene partner, who was waiting for that plot point, just would not take the ball. He just passed it right back to me to continue talking until I figured it out. So another 30 or 40 seconds goes by. I finally get to the point. I find my thread. It was like a minute and a half after I've started. I get off stage, and the other co-stars are literally looking at me and asking seeing if I'm okay, because I was basically hyperventilating when I got off the stage. And of course, that was the show that my junior high drama teacher who got me into theater in the first place came to see.
Awesome. Yeah.
No, it was not awesome. It was the worst time in my life.
Yeah.
Now I can laugh about it, but gosh, dog, that was a long minute and a half.
Yeah. And you're getting probably more national attention as Alderman Ross on Boss.
Sure. Alderman Ross. He has the fro. He has the crazy hair. Yes. It was great. I was definitely nervous at the start of it, but not so nervous because when I first shot my very first episode with them in 2011, I thought, well, probably going to be like 2 or 3 episodes and that'll be it. So, I'm not going to get too comfortable. Chicago is filled with actors who do the one-offs, the day player, the maybe 2 episodes of Chicago Code or Detroit 187, Prison Break, and most of us have done those. I've done a lot of those. You kind of don't expect it to extend beyond that because most regulars that are cast in shows that are shot here come from the coast, and we're more fill-in. It was much to my surprise. My agent called me after the second show that I did with him and said, well, they want to use you in 7 out of 8 episodes of that first season. I said, holy cow, I couldn't believe it. So I kind of dove in, and as a Chicago actor, I had to negotiate a couple of theater releases here and there. That's kind of what all the Chicago actors have to do when a TV show comes into town. The theaters are put on alert because suddenly their actors have to go and do a day on this or a day on that. So everyone's kind of scrambling and understudies and all that. But I had to do that with Boss for that first season, and I was in Hutto, Baltimore, I believe, at the time, at Steppenwolf, and they were very gracious in allowing me to get a couple shows off so I could do Boss. It was a great experience. I mean, the show was canceled now, but I came back and did that second season, and my role got increased somewhat. It was just great. Working with those guys, working with, Gus Van Sant on the first episode.
Oh, amazing.
Kelsey Grammer regularly, and second season, so now Lathan and I had a lot of work together, and it's kind of a dream when I think back on it. It's just really an amazing group, and I'm really happy that Chicago kind of had a chance to let people know that we have a lot of great actors, a lot of great crew people, and that we can support a series like that. So hopefully it's not the last time that something like that comes and sticks around. The Chicago Fire seems to be doing well, and hopefully that'll have a good life here.
What was the process for getting involved in the Book of Mormon?
I got a call from my agent. He said, I know you don't do musicals, James. I know you don't like to do them. I know you're scared of musicals. But there's a musical that's coming that I really think you need to go out for because you don't have to be a legit singer, and they're looking for a strong actor who can tell the story, who exudes respect, honor, that sort of thing, just being on stage. Would you like to try an audition for it? I said, well, you sold it to me. I'll give it a shot. So I went in there and I read for 3 people, and then I was called back and I read for like 10 people, which was a little daunting. They really liked what I did in there and rehearsed in New York for 4 weeks, came here to Chicago for a week and a half of tech, and then got going.
Did your agent mention that it was the Book of Mormon? Was there an immediate recognition for you? Obviously, it's such a huge show.
Oh, yeah. I knew, Trey and Matt, South Park, Team America, World Police. They're funny. They're